My name is Jessica Hockman. I'm the Executive Director of the Foundation for a Drug-Free World at the international headquarters here in Los Angeles. And we are all aware of the current situation with drugs in our communities. Lockdown across the world is not helping our kids, and they are missing out on vital education. So our purpose here at the Foundation is to empower kids with knowledge so that they make the decision, the educated decision, to stay away from drugs. And a vital ingredient to all of that is helping them get the knowledge so that they are empowered with it. Today, we're going to discuss about best practices in drug education. You're going to hear all about drug education activities and how you can get active as a drug educator. We have a very good list of speakers today. First is Mr. John Redmond. He is the CEO of Community Alliances for a Drug-Free Youth, and will share with us the history of Red Ribbon Week and the importance of drug education to youth. Next is Sergeant Rudy Perez. He's a 19-year veteran of the Los Angeles School Police Department and is currently the adjutant to the Chief of Police for the Los Angeles School Police Department. We also have Mr. Greg Londo. He's a teacher in a large public school district in Arizona who's been doing drug education activities with his students for years and was awarded the PTA Teacher of the Year for the state of Arizona. And we have Mr. Darren Tessitore, founder of Drug Educators Alliance, who has trained over 10,000 educators with the truth about drugs. There will be a question and answer period at the end, and you're welcome to write your questions, and we will take up as many of them as we can. It kind of depends on how many are going to be there. And after the event, we'll also send you a survey, and we really want to know what you thought of the event and what you'd like to see in future events, because this is not the first event we'll do. So we also, with that is also going to be a certificate. So many people have asked, will there be a certificate for having attended? We will send you a certificate at the end of the survey. Is a question, do you want a survey mailed to you? And then we can send it to you from there. So we will proceed with the event here. The event is being held in commemoration of Red Ribbon Week, and we're very lucky to have Mr. John Redmond with us, who was part of the organization that founded Red Ribbon Week in 1988. Mr. Redmond joins us from Texas, where he lives now, and he is an internationally recognized speaker on drug policy issues, particularly as they pertain to children. John was the Drug Traffic Demand Reduction Officer for the high-intensity drug trafficking areas of California, a program run out of the Office of National Drug Control Policy. He's currently the CEO of Community Alliances for a Drug-Free Youth, and in this capacity works to help people across industries, nonprofit organizations, faith-based organizations, educational campuses, and all to connect, communicate, and collaborate to develop effective drug strategies. Please welcome Mr. John Redmond.
Well, thank you, Jessica. Can you all hear me?
I think so. I can hear you just fine.
Excellent. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you for having me here. It's a wonderful opportunity. And Jessica asked me to speak a little bit about CADFI and its history and its connection with the Red Ribbon event, a little bit about prevention in America, and I'll wrap it up with some prevention strategies. So having said that, I'll begin. So my organization, CADFI, started off as Californians for Drug-Free Youth, and it became, as we started to broaden and work nationally and then internationally, we became known as Community Alliances for Drug-Free Youth, but still known with our moniker of CADFI. We came about in the early 80s out of the parent movement. There was a parent movement that started in prevention out of the peak of substance abuse in America. That was 1978. And back then there were a number of youth and young adults that were using drugs, and a lot of it was speed, and there were uppers and downers, and a lot of psychoactive drugs like LSD. But then by around 1980, that kind of all changed with this new drug that came on the market that was touted as safe It was non-harmful. It was non-addictive. It was the drug of the future. And for those of you who know, that drug was, you're right, cocaine. And so it just goes to show you how we hear about these benign drugs, and we hear about that today, and in some of the drugs that are being touted as benign, and then come to find out years later that they're really not. There's actually a national article in a magazine. It was in 1979, touting cocaine as this new wave of drugs for the future. But unfortunately, as we know, that drug was highly addictive, and it wasn't benign. This really came to fruition when there was a basketball player. His name was Len Bias. And by all accounts, he was going to be the most amazing pro basketball player that this country had ever seen. He overdosed on cocaine, and it was a shock to everybody. And then later, others we had celebrities from Hollywood, like John Belushi, dying of a drug overdose, and others. And it grew to such a point where people had enough, especially mothers in the United States, and there was this pushback. And so this parent movement started, where the moms of the United States said, enough's enough. We're not going to take it anymore. And they went to their congressmen, they went to their senators, but they also went to their communities, and they started to deal with awareness campaigns and tried to educate youth very early on. And we didn't really back then know a lot about prevention. And one of the things to note is that, in the 70s, people didn't believe that prevention was possible. Drug prevention was possible. The thought back then was, you're either not going to do drugs or you're going to do drugs. And if you do drugs, then we'll get you into treatment. But then two doctors, two social scientists said, well, maybe that's not true. And they started to research this and to see if changes could be made in a community or within a youth's sphere of influence to reduce that possibility of substance abuse. And they developed what they called these 40 risk factors and 40 protective factors. And within a community, the more protective factors you had, the less likely you were to take drugs. And the less risk factors you had, the less likely you were to take drugs. So, and they started testing these in neighborhoods and communities, and found that they could change the outcome of drug prevention. Youth drug use. So emboldened with this, these community coalitions from all over the United States started working on this. And CADFI early on started awareness campaigns. And it was in, I think it was 1983 that CADFI had its first state prevention anti-drug conference, and where there were a number of youth clubs, youth-to-youth organizations, all coming together, these peer-to-peer organizations working with youth and helping them to live a drug-free lifestyle. Then in 1985, something else happened, and that was a DEA agent named Kiki Camarena. He was working in Guadalajara, Mexico. He was actually working on drug trafficking and some marijuana fields that he knew about. And he was kidnapped, tortured, violently tortured and murdered. And that sent a shockwave to all of us and around the world. And it was so abhorrent to people in the United States that the United States shut the border down for 3 days. Nothing could go in or out, and over this tragedy. And so there was a lot of work between the United States and Mexico to move forward, and they found who had kidnapped and tortured, and where he was. He was on a ranch, and the federales raided it, but found that he was dead. And that again was devastating. And the CEO of CADFI at the time, his name was Henry Lozano, who actually went to prominence in Washington and did a lot out there in terms of prevention and faith-based work. But Henry was a classmate at Kiki's, and he, along with Duncan Hunter and a teacher, I think it was a high school teacher, they all got together and started these, I think it was 4 Kiki clubs in Imperial Valley in Calexico. And they started to wear red ribbons as a symbol of their drug-free lifestyle, but also to honor and recognize what, the sacrifice that Kiki had made. So the outcrop of this, these 4 Kiki clubs really grew in Imperial Valley. And Henry brought that to the board of CADFI and said, hey, I really think we have something going here. Can we expand it? And so in 1985, CADFI held the first statewide Red Ribbon campaign in California. And that was such a success. 2 years later, they brought that to then President and Nancy Reagan, along with National Family Partners, a national prevention organization, and made the Red Ribbon movement nationwide. So that awareness campaign was a start in dealing with the substance abuse issue, just as that awareness campaign to let people know that there was a problem out there, which is really the first stage of prevention, awareness. And the next stage that comes after that is education. Education not only of the community, of parents, but specifically and particularly youth. And that's where the truth about drugs and what Drug Free World comes in. I started working with Drug Free World in I think it was 2009. And I remember going to this really high level meeting in Los Angeles where we were trying to solve some very major problems. And the Drug Free World people were there, and afterwards they gave out some booklets to me, and they were interesting. And I brought them back to the office. And when we had our weekly staff meeting, I said, oh, and by the way, here are these booklets. And one of the preventionists got up and went into another room and came back with boxes of Truth About Drugs material, and said, yeah, Mr. Revin, we know all about them. We've been working with them for a couple of years now. So that was great that my staff knew and was working with them out in the community years before I did. But eventually, working with them in Los Angeles, some other things started to grow. And I was working with Mexico, and an entire state wanted the the Truth About Drugs curriculum, and we got that out to every high school in Baja California. So and they never said no. They never said we couldn't do this. They said yes, and that was, I think it was 1.3 million books that went out. So my hat's off to Drug Free World. My hat's off to you, Jessica, for continuing the tradition of not giving up and not saying no on even something that seems overwhelming. But so I want to thank you, Jessica, for having me. I want to thank you for your friendship, for your partnership, and I want to wish you a great drug-free Red Ribbon Week. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. I really appreciate that. What a great speech. From your speech, we got a lot of good questions, so we'll definitely get to those at the end. So definitely we'll get to those soon. Our next speaker is Sergeant Rudy Perez, a 19-year veteran of the Los Angeles School Police Department. He's worked in a variety of assignments, including policing middle school and high school campuses, day and night patrol, bike patrol, gang detail unit, and as a detective in the investigative division threat assessment unit. Sergeant Perez is also the vice president of the Los Angeles School Police Officers Association, representing 500 police officers in a school system that protects 700,000 kids. He's currently the adjutant to the police chief for the Los Angeles School Department. Please welcome Sergeant Rudy Perez.
Hi, can you guys hear me? Just making sure that's working.
I can hear you fine.
Okay, great. Well, listen, it's a pleasure to be with you guys today. It's definitely, we are living some interesting times. And as we look forward to get rid of COVID, I think being in person is good, but I appreciate you guys putting this together. There is definitely some challenges that we are living in the LA School Police Department. And I can tell you that drugs are challenging in itself. And being home, I'm sure these have been other issues that we've seen our kids run to. And, you know, the reasons why kids run to drugs, it's they want to fit in, they want to be part of a club, the pressures are there. What are some of the challenges that we are seeing in our schools? It will continue to be our e-cigars. E-cigars seem to be probably the biggest challenge right now in our school districts because they are so easy to hide. Most parents are not as educated on what they even look like. You know, you got the caffeine powder that a lot of sports kids are using. So the challenges are, how are we identifying some of these new drug trends that we are seeing across the country? Thank you, Jessica, for the opportunity. I also appreciate all the literature that you guys have sent, and we've been able to connect with our students across the Los Angeles. Not only that, it was a pleasure to sit as a president and a vice president of the LA School Police Association, and now I sit as a VP of the NASRO, National Association of School Resource Officers, which has the ability to represent 11,000 officers across the country in all 50 states and international waters now. And we have had your organization connect with us, and thank you for, I always say, helping to spread the gospel about the truths about drugs. So I appreciate that. So a small portion about what we do in Los Angeles School Police. We do represent one of the biggest school districts in the LA, in the nation. You got about close to 700,000 students, 1,700 sites, 23 cities, 69,000 employees. And that's a pretty big geographics, about 710 miles of jurisdiction in 23 cities that we serve in. Definitely the men and women of the LA School Police Department are one of the most well-trained on the information on narcotics. So we train a lot of our police officers on understand the trends, understand the new trends. The best part of it is we come back together always and going, hey, what are we talking about on our campuses? What are we seeing the trends on our campuses? So I believe the fiber in the schools is like with administrators, like our principals, our counselors, our teachers, and we are part of the conversation of what are the drug trends that we are seeing in this country so far. So I truly want to tap in onto the e-cigar. The e-cigar is a big trend that we are seeing, and if you're a parent and you kind of turn around and you're telling me, hey, we haven't seen, my son or daughter doesn't do e-cigars, we don't see them, I smell them all the time, they smell like fruit, then that might be a key indicator. We call that a clue in police work. And those are the things that we see, and parents tell me, I've met parents time after time say, well, my kids doesn't do narcotics, or my kids don't do e-cigars. Well, those are big indicators when your kids are coming around and they smell very fruity. Just think about that, going, wow, you have an interesting cologne you've taken on. So I'm going to leave you with that tidbit today. So parents, be aware in the room, there are so many key indicators of your child's room. If there might be some narcotics usage, whether they call certain names on their cell phones, there's a whole digital platform that maybe later on we can do a part 2 on what the drug trends are and what the conversations of your kids are texting to other kids, right? Where are they receiving some of these illegal drugs? I can tell you that I can pull up my Snapchat right now, and there is numerous people that I follow, thousands of people across the globe, and I can tell you that there is Snapchats, there is people that will send your son or daughter through, whether it's Venmo, whether through an application of being paid, they will send your son or daughter, or they'll send you narcotics, illegal narcotics, whether from marijuana, but especially on the e-cigar, because the oils that are being sent are very hard to just trace even when you put in the mail. So these are some of the trends that we are seeing on our campuses. I got to continue to tell you, parents, be super aware. If you're a parent, be just, if you even think your son or daughter might be doing drugs, they probably are, you know. So, and not that it's the end of the world, but it's something you should probably right away put your attention to it. There's professionals on this panel that are going to give you some more guidance. The last thing we do in the LA School Police Department is think about the enforcement part. We're truly about mentoring, leading, and protecting kids safely into graduation. And part of the big picture that we have here in the LA School Police Department is our mental health evaluation teams that consistently are out there being part of the solutions and not about the enforcement part on our campuses. Once again, we don't wake up every morning saying how many kids can I take to jail or take to arrest. That is not our goal. That is not our mentality. Truly, our mentality is to maintain a safe school where kids can learn and have the ability to graduate safely. So I appreciate the conversations that we are having here today. There's so much I can expand on, but you really don't want to hear about me. You really want to hear about more of these awesome people that are on this panel. So Jessica, once again, thank you so much for letting me be part of this conversation. And I'll take some questions after. Maybe I'll have some pictures here I can share during the panels if parents or other people want to see what e-cigars or what certain trans or flock are, or anything that we're seeing in our schools, even from bath salts to inhalants now, that we are having a huge population from the immigrant Central America. They use a lot of inhalants in Central America. So that can be back again with the glue smelling and all these other issues that we are seeing arise. So thank you again, Jessica.
Wow.
If I can be of help, you guys can always follow me on Instagram. It's Rudy Perez, SRO, Rudy Perez on Instagram. It's Rudy Perez, SRO on Instagram if you want to follow me. I put a lot of stuff out and you can go from there.
Wow. Thank you. This is so good. Very, very informative. Really appreciate that. Thank you very much, Rudy.
No worries.
Okay, so studies show that when young people are provided with the truth about drugs, factual information, that is when they can actually decide to stay away from drugs, and statistics will drop as far as the number of users on drugs. Therefore, the Foundation for a Drug-Free World provides drug education materials that get results. They engage students, get their attention, speak their language, any other wording you want to use for it, but the kids actually get what we're saying when we're talking to them, because we actually went and got actors who are their age to tell them their experiences with drugs. It's not just some actors thing, but we got real people, and that's how our stories are real. We have several great resources as for the Truth About Drugs campaign. We have 14 different educational booklets covering each of the commonly abused drugs. The documentary that we have called Real People, Real Stories, our award-winning public service announcements. There's 17 different public service announcements on our educator package, which covers our educator guide with a full curriculum with 19 different lessons going through the whole program, and that a teacher can use, SROs, school resource officers can use, anybody can use this as long as you're in a classroom setting. 24 sets of the booklets, and it walks you through. It's really just an add water and mix, and the whole program is able to be implemented. And our latest feature is our online courses. The online courses I'll go into a little more in depth, but anybody can use that. We've had we get 5,000 starts a week or something like that on these courses, and they're absolutely just great. Take a kid from not knowing anything about each of the different drugs to knowing all about it. There's 14 different courses. When we did a survey of kids, we also asked them, who do they listen to? They listen to their parents. After their parents, the next person that they listen to are professional athletes, actually, for parents and teachers. Teachers are high up there, but it's professional athletes. So we've actually gone out and we've made an activity to partner with professional athletes. The most keynote being NFL Hall of Fame running back, Mr. Marshall Faulk. He's not here today, but I'm sure I will get him soon enough. And during the Super Bowl in Miami in January this year, Marshall Faulk did media interviews with us, and he helped us to reach 51 million people to direct them to our website and find out the truth about drugs. So those are like a lot of kids, a lot of people are getting reached by that. And also it's an athlete telling us. So it's one of our other avenues for reaching more people. And all in all, while we have been doing all of these different activities, we have had at the same time in that area during the Super Bowl, sorry to go back there to, during the Super Bowl, we had 750,000 booklets were distributed throughout the whole area using the volunteers from all across Miami. And it was really quite an impactful event because we had it from all angles there. So as is very clear, we're all about reaching as many people as possible. In fact, since we started in 2006, we've provided our Truth About Drug educator packages to 31,000 schools internationally. And there have been over 166,000 Truth About Drugs online course completions since we started. And through our worldwide network of volunteers, we've distributed over 144 million Truth About Drugs booklets. So the next part of today's presentation, you're going to hear from two educators who have reached thousands of youth using our Truth About Drugs materials. Next is Mr. Greg Londo. He is an educator in a large public school in Phoenix, Arizona, and for the last 18 years, he's participated in drug education classes with 11 to 13-year-olds, as well as to parents, teachers, and community leaders. Dr. Londo's experiences include teaching opportunities in China and the United States with highly gifted students. He has earned the titles of PTA Arizona Elementary Science Teacher of the Year for 2017 and the Arizona State PTA Teacher for the year 2008. His goal is to educate as many students and community members as possible about drug addiction and its effect in our society. It is a privilege to present to you Mr. Greg Londo.
Thank you, Jessica and team. We've worked hard to put this together, and I know there's been a lot of interest in what it looks like for an educator. So I'm speaking to educators out there, whether it's a private school, public school, it doesn't matter which level of education, this program is important. So when I set up my classes, when I teach drug education, I kind of set things up a little bit differently than maybe most do. I build a safe environment to build a relationship with students. So I want to make sure that the students feel safe, welcomed in an environment. And as I go through and teach them, I create these bonds with them, not as a friend, but as a leader, teacher, relational leader, that I can understand where they're coming from and they don't have fear as far as not being able to tell me anything. So when I build the trust and I start teaching on the drug prevention, I usually set some norms because I want it to be safe for everybody. So typically I tell them, look, this is a safe environment. We can have our deeper discussions. We do not want to use people's names because I know parents are going to want to know what they've been talking about in school. I want them to have those discussions at home. I really do. But I don't want them to tell people's names because that's an invasion of privacy and confidentiality. So do I want them to lie? Of course not. So I purposely tell my students, leave out the pronouns, don't say the names. A friend of mine, a person that I have heard of, instead of saying Johnny, who I know, because then you know what happens. The neighborhood goes wild because Johnny has been doing this or his brother's been doing this, and then the community gets all excited. And so I want to prevent that, to keep it safe for all of the kids. Now, when we talk about being truthful, this is when it does get real, because we talk and I introduce what our story is, and we talk about why do people choose to do drugs. And these topics are extremely important to these kids because first they're like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. Why would anybody do something like that? But yet these are the same kids who have sisters or brothers or family members or even parents that are on drugs or have been prosecuted or are currently in prison. And yet I'm talking to these students. And they have a lot of questions. They want to know, do I have a choice? Am I doomed to repeat what my family has done? And I give them concrete examples of, with your choice comes a consequence, and you have a choice. And I keep building on that. For example, I have some personal friends that one has made some poor choices and another has made great choices. And I draw a line on my board and I say, you don't, it's not a straight line. You're going to make choices and that's going to change up or down. So as we go through life, we make choices. Sometimes there's a consequence, negative or positive, there's still a consequence. When that happens, we talk about the result of that consequence and how long it takes to recover from that. So as we go in deeper, and plus I also teach science to the kids. So when I talk about drug prevention, I'm actually spending probably a good amount of time on what drugs do to the actual body itself, the tissues, the organs, the brain in particular, and how it works and what it's affecting. It gets to a point where the kids are asking really deep questions. And when I wrap up at the end of our discussion, it's more of an open discussion, and some of the kids will share pretty deep and revealing things. And anybody who works in public instruction, you know that if they reveal certain things to you, you're required by state to report it. So you have to, keep that there, that you're still protecting them, but you're also acknowledging that there's a law. In one case, there was a girl in my room and she started just crying, and she shared with me, she goes, I don't know what to do because my parents are on coke. And when me and my younger brother come home, they're strung out doing a line of coke when they get there. And she was all concerned for her kindergartner little brother, how to protect him. And I said, well, what's really going on? She goes, well, sometimes they get pretty crazy and dad picks up a baseball bat or a hammer and starts hitting the walls. And I said, well, what do you do? She goes, well, I grab my little brother and I shut my bedroom door and I crawl out the apartment window and I go to the neighbor and I stay there for the night. Now, that was pretty shattering to me, that these were real stories from real kids with real events that are happening in our neighborhood, in our community of our school. When I go deep with these kids, they're able to freely talk to my class because they know it's a safe place, and they do tell their stories. They want to tell their stories because there is no place for them to tell it. And if they don't get the information from my class, they're going to find it in the street. And we all know the information from the street stays on the street because it's worthless. So when we talk about drug prevention, we talk about what the drugs do, what they impact in your life. This is the critical part of why this program, Drug Free World, is so critical. When I first started teaching drug education, it was all kinds of things. It was just say no to drugs, and I've used that program, but it just caused more questions and there was no answers. And then I stopped that one and I went to another program. It was character education. Learn to say no to bullies, learn to stand up for yourself. But it never reached, well, what do they do if they get drugs? And they didn't approach that. When I was introduced to Drug Free World, I was kind of like, at first, I was like, well, another new program, whatever. I opened it up, looked at the materials, I preview all materials, I looked at the videos, I looked at all of this. God, this is perfect. It answers the story about where they come from, what it does to your body, how it's made, how it's used, how it's abused, and it tells real stories from real people. I said, that's it. I started using that and have never switched since. Here's another true story. One of my former students who went on to middle school in 8th grade, and she came back from getting off her bus, and she ran into my class and said, Dr. Londeau, you're not going to believe what happened today. And I said, well, I don't know, what happened? And she goes, remember you told me that drugs can be found anywhere and they're just there? And I said, yes, I did. She goes, well, I was approached on my bus today. And I said, wait, someone approached you with drugs? She said, yeah. Now, this girl her parents are going through a divorce. So she was having trouble emotionally. So she sat purposely in the back of the bus. She put her hoodie all the way over. She just wanted to be alone. And then this dude she never knew got up and walked to the back of the bus, sat next to her, You're ready to hand her a little baggie and said, I've got something for you. This will make you feel so much better. Now, that was the depressing part. The good part was she turned to him and said, are you kidding me? Do you have any idea what that does to your brain cells? And she started teaching him what she learned in this class about what this chemical does to your brain and how it affects your neuron transmitter molecules. It burns them out and you can't use your brains anymore. Why would anybody do drugs? He turned around and left and never bothered her since. That's the worthy of this program. It really reaches the kids. Now, how do I get my community involved? The outreach program, the school is the center of community. The community is everyone involved in the school. So you have the parents, you have business owners, you have all this collective, including the local police force. We're all involved as a community. I reach out to the community members, and our school, like many schools, have community nights. Ours is no different. We have 2 community nights a year, one in the fall, one in the spring. And I asked my students, would you like to maybe set up a drug prevention booth? And boy, did they just jump all over this. Can we do that? I said, well, of course you can. So I got materials together, and I got the PTA to donate some money so we could buy some big signs to put up, all that. And every year since then, I have too many students wanting to participate, to help, to come back, to share the word. This is critical for a good program that's going to promote the awareness and education of why students need to know about drugs and what they do. So what do we do in this time? It's COVID. Well, to be honest, it's really tricky because we have these closed classrooms, we have online learning, but the good news is there's new online e-resources from e-learning that Drug Free World has produced, which is absolutely awesome. I've taken one of the courses, I've looked through it, I've examined it, and it's something that a teacher could assign a student in a Google Classroom or in any kind of Blackboards or any technology you use. That way you kind of give it to the student to work on, and then you can have a report back. I prefer if they write it, because if they speak it, we have parents possibly listening in. We have other relatives possibly listening in, so you have no privacy issues. But if they type it and send it, we can have a dialogue, and it keeps all of it going. Now, students are my best advertising tool because they go and they tell others. I feed into a middle school that feeds into a high school system, a mixture of many different schools. I'm very proud of my students because they keep their packets in a baggie. And I've had them tell me many times, I still have my booklets. And I'm like, why would you have these? Because, well, because you won't realize how many times I've had to pull one out and hand it to somebody because they don't know anything about drugs. That's the best information I can give you. Why should you implement a program such as this? It's free, it's effective, and the results are astounding. And I can vouch for those results because I've been through lots of different programs. If you do have questions, feel free to put them into the question and answer portion, and I'll be happy to answer your questions at the conclusion.
All right, that was a great presentation, truly excellent. Thank you very much. I'm sure our viewers will have a lot of good questions and a lot that they can just take away from what you just said, I'm sure. So now for our final speaker is Darren Tessitore. He's been working with the Foundation for a Drug-Free World since 2006, when a friend showed him the materials in Boston, Massachusetts. Darren had experienced the devastating effects of drugs and alcohol at a young age, and after having lost 7 of his friends before he was 16 years old. When his daughters got to be the same age as when he started using drugs, he knew that it was time to get active, teaching not only his kids, but everyone the truth about drugs. Since then, Darren has educated over 10,000 educators, from driver's education teachers to law enforcement officials, on the truth about drugs. Darren's specialty is in teaching others how to use and implement the program. And he recently decided to take his drug educator training to the next level and founded Drug Educators Alliance, taking the best practices from around the world in drug education to put them into one easy to follow and implement online learning program. I could go on, but I'll just present him to you here. Please welcome Darren Tessitore.
Thanks, Jessica. Thanks for having me today. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I have a little presentation I'm going to go over with you guys today. But first, I just want to quickly let you know I've definitely experienced what drugs can do and how they've affected my life and the lives of those around me. And one of the things that I've seen to be able to personally do something about that is having tools to educate kids. So what I want to do today is I want to show you guys a little bit about what Drug Free World actually has to offer and how it works, and give you some actual resources that you can start using right now. So give me 1 second. I'm going to share my screen with you. Good. There we go. You guys can all see that, right, Jessica?
I think everybody can see that.
Excellent. Great. So Drug Educators Alliance was formed to create a group of educators that can collaborate with each other to educate kids on what drugs really are and how they work. And one of the most effective tools that we have found is Drug Free World. Part of what we do is we also go around and we do trainings. Not as many live trainings, obviously, lately, but we do a lot of online training where we can train your teachers and your other educators on how to properly implement a free drug education program. And we don't charge anything for our services. So if you want us to come and do trainings for you, just let us know and we can definitely do that. I want to give you guys an understanding of what Drug Free World looks like and how it works. The first thing to really know is that informed youth are drug-free youth. When kids know what drugs actually really are and how they really work, they can make self-determined choices about doing those drugs. We've found that pushing the message of say no to drugs and don't do drugs doesn't always work. Drugs have been sensationalized, especially on Snapchat and Instagram and Facebook and TikTok. All these other mediums are promoting how great drugs are and how happy they can make you, including alcohol, which is a drug. So the key here is to make sure that the kid understands what the drug is, how the drug works, and then they'll actually be able to make that determination themselves if they want to do it. And when you're properly educated on something and what these drugs are, you're not going to want to do them, right? So the mission of the Drug Free World is to basically provide effective drug education to everyone that wants to have it for free. And when I say free, I'm not kidding. The materials don't cost anything in any quantity. Like Mr. Redmond was saying earlier, he gave out over like 1 million booklets. I've seen that happen all across the world. Alabama, the entire state of Alabama wanted to give out drug education booklets to their high school students. Drug Free World shipped them 1.8 million booklets for free. So think as big as you can. You can have the materials if you can use them. So first, the materials in the program consist of an educator package, an online interactive education platform where you can do courses, which I'm going to get into in a minute, our booklets on all the different types of drugs. There's a documentary which goes into all the different drugs, what they are, how they work, and how they affect you. And then there's our public service announcements. The educator package, which we're going to put a link right now into the Q&A button. If you click the Q&A box on your field, on your Zoom, you'll see a link that will take you directly to download and order a free educator package. And this is what it comes with. It comes with the educator guide, which I'm going to go into in a little bit more detail here in a minute. It comes with a documentary, 24 sets of booklets, some posters, and some other materials to help you implement the program. And it's all free. The educator guide is 19 one-hour lessons, each lesson going into a different drug, what it is, how it works, and how it affects you. It's really easily laid out so that anyone can pick it up and do it. It's that simple. The lesson plans in here are all laid out for you. Literally, you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's your lesson plan. It's very simple. It goes along with the educator guide, the documentary, and the booklets. So those kind of work hand in hand. Just want to show you a couple chapters here. You have the Truth About Drugs overview, and then as you can see here, let me just pull up my little highlighter. So you can see here, you have in the lessons, each lesson will go into a different drug. The first 3 lessons go into why is drug education necessary? Why is drug education necessary? Our drug education culture. Why do people take drugs, and how do drugs affect the mind? And then those first 4 lessons will cover the basics of that. And then after that, we go into the different drugs: marijuana, alcohol, ecstasy, cocaine, crack, crystal meth, inhalants, heroin, LSD, prescription drugs, painkillers, and then the final word and final lesson. Each one of these lessons does have a homework assignment and some question and answer periods. And it's very interactive. So it's very easily laid out for the kids to use. And you can go online right now to this link, which we're going to put in the Q&A as well right now. If you click the Q&A box, you'll see that link in there. That will take you to a page where you can actually download the educator guide for free. You can download chapters of the documentary. You can download the public service announcements. You can download the booklets. So this is the link here. You have all the booklets in here that you can actually download PDF versions of. There's posters that you can download. There's also other education materials like the educator guide here. There's pledges, all the homework assignments that we hand out you can download here. You can also download the public service announcements. These are 1-minute PSAs that are really, really hard hitting and straight to the point. If you want to download these and play them on your TV screens in school, you want to play them in registries of motor vehicles, we have registries playing this. We have malls that play this. So any place you have a TV screen that you want to put the PSA on, go for it. The only thing that Drug Free World asks is that you don't edit it. If you need an edited version with your name or anything like that, contact Jessica. She'll help coordinate that for you. And then you can also download chapters of the documentary. The full documentary is here to download. So if you want to play it for the kids and you don't have a DVD player in your classroom and you don't have internet access, download the documentary, play it on your computer. And then we have our online course. This is great for anyone to do. It's free, walks you through all of the different chapters of the education guide, all the different the chapters of the DVD, the public service announcements, and the booklets are all built right into the course. If you go to drugfreeworld.org, right on the home page here, you're going to see this box. All you need to do is click free online course right there, and that will take you right into the course. And you can start the course. And each lesson goes into a different chapter. This first booklet here, which I'll show you a little bit more of in a minute, it actually goes over all the different types of drugs, what they are and how they affect you. And that's the way the booklets are laid out. They're laid out into a very simple process of this is what the drug is, this is how the drug works, here's the short-term, here's the long-term side effects. You decide. Really basic. This one booklet called the Truth About Drugs booklet is a little bit bigger and it covers more data. So you can get as many of these as you want as well and hand these out. It's great for the kids to give them a good overview of a whole bunch of different drugs. But the first chapter goes into that, and then it walks you through the documentary chapter on the Truth About Drugs, first chapter, and so forth. And then we have our booklets. Jessica touched on these a little bit earlier. We have the overview booklet that covers all the drugs. Marijuana, which is a really, really great booklet. It's fairly new as well. This was worked on with the DEA not too long ago. So there's a lot of really updated data on here on marijuana. Marijuana, as we know, is a gateway drug, and anyone who tells you it isn't hasn't really been following what's happening with drugs, because the marijuana epidemic is a problem, and the potency of marijuana is very dangerous. And yes, kids are vaping it right now. You can get THC vapes at 98% THC, which if you ever smoked pot, especially if you smoked it back in 70s, 80s, 90s, or even 2000s, 98% THC is not what you smoked. It's a lot different, and it will destroy you. And it is very addictive. So the thing here with this marijuana booklet is it really goes into what marijuana is, how it really works, how it really affects you. If you want to give this out to your whole school district, let us know. Drug Free World will send you as many copies as you want. Not too long ago, the province of Quebec wanted to give the marijuana booklet to every single kid that did driver education in the province, 75,000 kids, and Drug Free World shipped them 75,000 booklets. All the kids got the marijuana booklets. So think in quantities and what you want to do with this. You can also download the PDF and email it to the kids. You name it. Very hard hitting. Then there's alcohol, synthetic drugs, ecstasy, cocaine, crack, crystal meth, LSD, inhalants, heroin, prescription drugs, painkillers. So we have a couple different ones here on the prescription painkillers and Ritalin abuse. So prescription drugs goes more into your different types of prescription drugs, and then the painkillers goes more specifically into the painkiller drugs that are very highly addictive, like the opioids and so forth that you see right now. And then Ritalin abuse. Ritalin is a very abused drug. Over 18 million kids in America are prescribed Ritalin, and it actually is classified by the DEA the same as cocaine. So you can chop up Ritalin and snort it and get high just like you would on cocaine. So that's why we have a booklet on this, because kids just don't realize that. Again, that link that is in the question and answer will take you here to be able to download all those. And you can get as many of the booklets as you want in any quantity, like I said earlier. And then there's the documentary. The documentary is about 90 minutes long. Each chapter is fairly short, 7 to 10 minutes long, going into what those drugs are, how those drugs work, how they truly affect you. Very hard hitting. And again, this is on the point of, don't just preach to the kids, say no. Let them understand what drugs are and how they work, and let them hear from people that have done it. And that's what this documentary is. The name of the documentary is Real People, Real Stories, because it is real people giving real stories, and they're very hard hitting, and they will wake these kids up. To the point of where I was doing a seminar, actually I was doing an event in Vermont, Red Ribbon Week a few years ago. And I had a kid walk up to me and he goes, "Oh, Drug Free World. We just watched that documentary in our class on marijuana." He goes, "I stopped smoking pot after watching that. I had no idea what marijuana did." I'm like, wow, real people, real stories. It is very enlightening and really wakes them up quite a bit. And then our PSAs, these public service announcements are really to the point. There's 17 of them. They're 1 minute long. Show them as much as you can, as often as you can, before class, after class. Show them in the hallways. Whatever you can do with these, get them out there, because they will wake up kids. They really will, because they're just a minute long, and they're very catchy and very, very well filmed. Again, you can watch all of these videos on drugfreeworld.org right on the homepage there. Just click on documentary and you can watch them all online. So what can you guys do as educators? First thing you need to do is you can study the materials. Go and do the Drug Free World course on our website. Learn all about what the different drugs are and how they work and how they affect you. And then bring the materials to your community. And when I say to your community, anyone that you think that has the ability to reach these kids, sheriffs and police, health teachers, physical education teachers, driver education teachers are great. Most state driver ed teachers have a requirement to do drug and alcohol training. And the materials that they have are typically old and antiquated. Unless I've trained them, then they have Drug Free World materials, which we've trained over 10,000 driver ed teachers in the nation. And we've gotten out hundreds of thousands of booklets all across the country to driver ed teachers. So your chances are your driver ed schools are using Drug Free World already, but if they're not, introduce them to the program, let them know that it's there as a resource for them. And then also your local churches, they're a great influence as well, because they want to help the community and they have a great reach to the kids. And then you can also send the students to the online course for free at Drug Free World. You can deliver seminars to the kids, you can deliver seminars to educators, and you can even volunteer for Drug Free World if you'd like. And if you want any help from the Drug Educators Alliance, you can reach out to me. Our website will be up soon as drugeducatorsalliance.org. Just reach out to us, let us know what you want us to do and how to help, and we'll be glad to help in any way possible. So I'm going to leave you with a little quote from the Special Agent in Charge Drug Enforcement Agency. It says, "Through the sharing of your knowledge and experience, the Foundation for Drug Free World has played a vital role in the success of DEA's demand reduction and community outreach services." So that's it for me, guys.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you, Darren.
You're welcome.
Okay. Okay, so that was fantastic. As a wrap of a couple of things that he actually he was the conclusion of our guest speakers. And I know that there were some questions and what we wanted to do, what suggestions there are to do for Red Ribbon Week. So just to encompass what can be done, and especially in these times, there's definitely, you can do drug education lectures. You can order our educator package, or if you can't get it in time because Red Ribbon Week is next week, you can download all of the resources from our website. All of the educator resources are available for download at drugfreeworld.org/educators. There's a bunch of ending things, you'll see them soon. Another you can do with all of your kids is you can get them all to do pledge signing. We have online pledge signing where kids will pledge to live a drug-free life, drugfreeworld.org/pledge. if your city permits it, or if you can get out and it's, you know, you can maintain your social distancing and all of those kind of things, definitely go out and distribute the Truth About Drugs booklets. Get your kids out there doing it with you. This is the time, get the word out for Red Ribbon Week. Mr. Londo was saying that he was doing it with his kids and it was a hit with them, and people receiving it really do enjoy it. And we get calls into the foundation all the time for people who want to, you know, like the booklets, etc. And then of course there is the online courses. They're available for everyone. There's 14 different online courses that can be done. The courses are 14 different courses. They take you through each of the different drugs. So say you're going to do the course on heroin, it'll take you through the public service announcement. It'll walk you through intermittently through the chapters of the booklet and then the documentary chapter. So it's definitely learning that gets you to totally understand what's happening there. Then after that, you get, well, that's what the courses do. They're available in 20 languages. So you can definitely they can be available to anyone. And then at the end of the speech, or at the end of each course, is a multiple choice quiz where you can answer the questions, and it makes it even more, and it's a test at the end. And then upon completion of each course, you do get a certificate that you can download right there at the end of the course. So it's definitely a resource. Spread that one around because anybody can use it. You can maintain all protocols. Everybody can do it in schools, however you want to. And it's easy to share. So those are some ideas for Red Ribbon Week. And we will also have a link up on our Facebook with all of the different things that you can get to. So our Facebook is, I'm not sure, I'm going to get that back to you, but it'll be available on the Drug Free World Facebook, or drugfreeworld.org/course will take you to the courses. And as just a quick reminder, at the end of the event, there is a survey, which we would definitely like to get your feedback on so we can fulfill your requests and do this again. And without further ado, we'll go into the question and answer period. Because we don't have too much time, we'll go until people stop asking questions, or maybe depending on when the speakers need to go. Okay, so my first question here is, let's see. This is for Mr. Redmond, John Redmond. The question is, some programs say that you can't tell kids not to do drugs, but you have to teach them to be safe if they're going to try them. Is that something that you think is successful?
No, I think that's horrible. So yeah, there's an organization, which I won't name names, that promotes the safe use of drugs and teaches that to kids, suggesting that kids are going to do drugs anyway, let's teach them how to do it safely. I think that is the most horrible concept, and it's not backed by science either. It just isn't. And I've had to deal with that over the years, but no, not at all. Should never be done.
Good. Okay, good. Thank you very much. Okay, here's the next question. It's for Mr. Lando. What grade level or age group is it recommended to start talking to kids, to start talking like this with kids?
That's a great question. And since I spend most of my time in elementary and middle schools, that question's been brought up in conversations. And in the county that I live in Maricopa County in Arizona, we knew that kids were getting addicted to alcohol and being drunk as early as 4th grade. So we wanted to make sure that we hit those kids at an early age. I would say I would not go before the intermediate grades, which is earlier than 4th grade or 3rd grade, unless you can really do it differently. And because the concept is difficult to understand, and especially when you get to 10 years old and towards 11 years old, the brain starts to change and they're more able to use abstract thinking. and instead of concrete thinking. So that way you can definitely address it in those grades. I wouldn't go younger than 4th grade. I hope that answers that question.
That does answer my question. Thank you. Or I hope it answers our person's questions too. Okay, so this is now for Sergeant Perez. What are the contents of e-cigarettes?
So we're, if I can share my screen here, I'm going to hit share here. So a few things that we can see quickly. Can you see my screen? Not sure what you can see yet.
I can see your screen.
Is it the vaping?
It's vaping tools, which is good.
Okay.
There was another person who had also
Okay.
asked.
So this, I'm going to go quickly. This is something we put together a while ago, but these quickly. So some of the things, the tools that you see for the parents or educators that are on there, they come in so many different ways. You're looking at the oil is on the right-hand side, the left, and to your left as you're seeing the picture, but it looks like a USB drive, so a lot of parents is like, oh, it's just a USB drive, they're using, but they can plug it, charge it onto their computer. Somebody was asking also, what does an e-cigar look like? This is actually what a real now e-cigar is going to look like, talking about duplicating some of the things that are coming straight from Cuba. Once again, they come in different forms, different aspects, different avenues, but they're very hard to tell now. This is what you see on his sweater. You see how teens hide their vaping. So look at that. It looks like the string of the sweater. So it's in plain sight. And these are some of the challenges that parents and other educators, even educators, don't understand what it is. So you can, charge it and plug it right into your sweater. And if you remove it from the bottom, it just pulls your sweater together. These are other things that kids are using. I'm just holding my drink. This is something that not a lot of people know, but it's usually more known for oils. It's known for different kind of oils all over. I can get so much into this, and it's just we don't have time for it. So anyways, if you want to have more information, you can always call me, send me this information right here, or connect with me on Instagram and other stuff. So if that helps, hopefully it answered a few questions.
That was great. Yeah, I was going to say there was someone else who had asked to get a picture of him, and those are good ones. I've seen that one before. Okay, so this one is for Mr. Tessitore. Who do I contact to get someone to come and speak at our school?
Darren T at drugfreeworld.org.
Good. Okay. I figured. Why don't you say it one more time?
DARRENT at drugfreeworld.org. Shoot me an
Okay,
email.
good.
I'll be more than happy to help arrange that.
Fantastic.
If you want a Zoom call, we can do that right now. We can schedule something. If you want us to come, it may be a little bit more delayed because of the current situation.
Yeah. Okay, then here was another one. This is for Mr. Perez. What are some of the ways to, oh, I think I didn't mean that one to go to you, but it's okay, here we go. What are some of the ways that you've seen people celebrate Drug Awareness Week virtually with youth? I don't know if you'll have the answer, but if anyone else has an idea, let me know.
Yeah, so what we do is we campaign online. We've done a lot of fun virtual, just like we're doing, but we'll go live on Facebook, we'll go live on Instagram and connect with kids and talk about the story John talked about today. And that, John, I appreciate that the context of Red Ribbon Week and how it's all started. But that's kind of what we'll do. We connect with kids virtually. We're doing a lot of stuff with Red Rocket, and Red Rocket's also another tool that we use here in regards to more smaller elementary age kids, in regards to just how to avoid something that you don't know, and just their senses is what we use. So kind of the stuff we use.
Great. Makes sense. Thank you. Okay, then this is for Mr. Redmond. This is, why do you think the Just Say No campaign doesn't work?
Well, the Just Say No campaign was early on in the 80s. And it didn't go far enough. I wouldn't say that it didn't work. What I would say is that as we started to learn prevention, and the research came through, because remember, Hawkins and Catalano were doing this in the late 70s, early 80s. The Just Say No campaign started around that time. So when you think about prevention as one of the youngest social sciences that we have right now, it's more of a developmental stage. So the Just Say No campaign was good in terms of awareness, showing people what was happening out there, but then realizing that other things had to change in terms of life skills development, so that it wasn't enough to just say no. They did have to be educated about the different issues, but then also have the developmental skills to be able to handle that situation within their environment. And that's the same as treatment. You know, when someone goes into treatment, you don't just say, okay, you're clean and sober now, go back to the same environment, the same neighborhood where you got addicted, and you're fine. No, in treatment, it's about teaching and developing those life skills so that they're armed with the ability to go back and stay clean and sober. And it's the same with youth. So the Just Say No campaign was a good awareness campaign, letting people know. But then to build upon that, and as schools around the country have started to develop those educational programs that not only teach them about the drug issues, but also help them to develop those skill sets, so that when they go back home and back into their community, they're armed with the ability to resist that. And that has been shown to work.
Great. Thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Londo, this one's for you. Will students need parent permission in order to be taught these lessons? Not sure how in-depth the content will be. I will work with elementary students K6. I assume this would only be appropriate for sixth graders. I think you answered that partly, but maybe you want to just answer what you're.
Partly, and once again, I did have to come review this criteria to teach this program because of the age of the children. And so I, along with my administrator and school officials, came up with an opt-out sheet that clearly states what the program is, has the website on it that they can check it out. They can preview the materials. I'm not closed about anything. I'm very open. Said, here, you can have it. Here's a CD. You can look at all this stuff. I don't care. But if you still don't want to, because there are some that are being taught at home and they don't want them to be learning anything at school about drugs. And I've only had, to be honest, I've only had 4 not do it out of my years of doing it, because the parents end up seeing the benefit of it. And they didn't see anything wrong with the material, but it does. I mean, as an educator, you have to preview it first to know how to temper it so that they can absorb it without having conflict.
Yeah, totally makes sense. Let's see. Okay, and this is a question I'm just going to give to you again, Mr. Londo, because it's someone asking on the program on how they use it. You may be able to answer, who's from experience. It says, I started the pre-program questionnaire with my class virtually. However, because my students are living in remote areas, I could not get the booklets to them. So I was able to download each booklet. My question or dilemma is the video. I tried playing via the Google Classroom. My students were able to see but not hear the video. Is there a video that is via downloaded? Actually, I can just answer that question.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Yeah, you can download any of the resources, the documentary chapters, the public service announcements. They're all available on our downloads page. So it's drugfreeworld.org/download. Pretty simple. And if you're a teacher and you want specifically teacher resources and you're looking for educator resources, it's drugfreeworld.org/educators. And that has all of the educator guide, all of the materials there, and you can just get them there. So And then again, you can always email us. I'm at Drug Free World. All of you who got the invite, or you can ask us on Facebook and we'll get answers to you, or just through drugfreeworld.org. Okay, I think we're going to just wrap up here pretty soon. Rudy, there were people who had asked if they could get copies of your PowerPoint.
So what I can do is I can share some of that stuff. If they can email me, that'd be great. You know what? Somebody also just sent me a text that's watching. It's called Rocket Rules of some of the stuff we use for the elementary Rocket Rules. And just want to clear that up. But yeah, if they can send me an email at rudy_perez@att.net, I will share some more materials that we have also. So.
Fantastic. Okay, well, I think that wraps up any of our questions. Or is there anything that any of you participants here would like to add? Okay, I think that's it. I really appreciate everybody attending. We had lots of great questions, and I do look forward to tabulating your surveys and seeing what else people want to find out, because we'll do this again. This was a great activity. So thank you very much.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks.